think that we had a lot more confusion in propylene because in March, we had a very unusual spike that I don't think a lot of people saw coming in terms of the extent of the spike. That, at the end of February in the US, the polymer grade propylene was mid 50s, and that was coming up a little bit. But, at the end of last year, it was in the 30s, and it wasn't so terrific for producers and really the chain in a lot of senses. And then we're in the mid 50s. And then March 1st, bids 65, and then March 2nd, bids 70. And then you're getting material that's trading higher for prompt delivery. And it's telling a story, but it's the effect for, it's telling a story that might involve very few people, but the price itself has such a large effect that when the month is said and done, well, the contract price ended up, jumping up 8 cents, and it's sitting there. And we've seen the spot price. We look at how sustainable is this price, because I think that of the polymers, polypropylene demand is one of the more challenging areas compared to other polymers. Not that it's necessarily bad, but that it's that when you're looking at how sustainable is this monomer price on that monthly contract basis, because we'll go through it all again in a few weeks of what did April do. Yep. What April's done is really, now we're down in the 40s. Yep. So it's there is some, maybe you can call it a sense of correction, but I think the propylene is still kind of seeking its own level here.
So you mentioned that just a few players kind of driving those big increases earlier in the quarter. What do you attribute that increase to? I mean, was there like a severe unexpected uptick in demand and all of a sudden more material is needed for downstream applications? Or what do you attribute that spike to? Can you tie it to something specific?
Sure.
Or?
Yeah, and I don't mean to speak with authority, like I know it was only how many people. I don't know, but you can see in the trading volumes, there wasn't a whole lot of volume going at those prices. And then it seemed as though there was a greater sense of supply security, that those prices began to drift down. So that's where I feel like the story that was being told, again, for me, because I felt it in my heart, that's how I get with propylene.
Yep.
March 1st, my heart was like, what is happening? And March 2nd and 3rd, and, will this end? It just felt like a panic. And perhaps there was a subset of people that were in a panic. That's what always drives a price spike, is that sense of panic. And that's where, again, any reports of demand were simply not matching up. So maybe the demand was very specific to demand this week is crazy.
Sure.
Because we don't have the product.
Yep.
So it's all relative. But, it was a rare market for propylene in that sense. I think back to, again, we were talking about, having years on the planet and using AI rather than relying on AI, that I mean, hopefully you might remember 2008.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. That, that propylene had, crude oil was almost $150 and that propylene was above 80 cents. And how sustainable was it? Because like with any product, this is not just a propylene story, but when the price drops so quickly, it's really very disruptive to inventory, and being able to pass it along through the chain. So it's really, I felt as though, again, in my observation, because I don't actually participate in the propylene market, but my observation was that March was something people got through.
Yeah.
And here we are. And an interesting thing, though, that I noticed about the March propylene in the States, because of the futures market, is March is up at 70. Well, in February we had 56, and April was 50. March goes up to 70. April's still 50. Mm-hmm. So this, again, it helps inform you of more nuance about the situation. So at this point, we saw this in benzene too, that you saw this backwardation really widen as the price was jumping up in the near term, but that next month was not really going anywhere. So at this point, when the prices for propylene and also for benzene were coming down, that April price was really the same.
Right.
And as we get into April, and for propylene, we're in the low 40s, that we've got the outer months in the high 30s.
Yep.
Yeah. So we still have the price strength in the front for a lot of these products, but that there's not such a big distance to the outer months.
Sure. Yeah, I know our product manager sent out what propylene had settled at. It was kind of two things. It was propylene settled here, and then we're hearing spot numbers, 10 cents under, whatever. And people replied, was like, so there was a contract increase, but the net result is a decrease. It's like, yeah, sort of, in a way.
Yeah. And that always speaks to how you structure your contracts.
Exactly.
That how many times I've heard people saying all of my volume is tied up in one price. I'm like, wow. I think about my own groceries. I'd never do that,
Right.
But at the same time, when you leave yourself, let's say eggs were my thing, and I'm just going to rely on it is what it is. I'm a price taker on eggs, apparently.
Yeah.
So if I didn't have any security of supply, a friend of mine has chickens now, so there's a whole different situation there.
Sure.
But yeah, that's what I think. It comes to another effect of these past 3.5 years is when your contracts are coming up for renewal, you're like, this really didn't work out for me in a stress test.
Right.
And maybe in 15 years, I never had it stressed to this level, but I never want it stressed again.
Yeah.
So what can we do?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that there's, a lot, there had been a lot of pain, but there's maybe, what is it? Smarter but wiser.
Yeah.
Market.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense.